We've been taught everything except how to be human. Welcome to Human School, where remarkable people turn raw, unfiltered experience into practical wisdom. I'm Miles Adcox, and this podcast was born from the belief that you don't graduate from being human. You just get more honest about the lessons. If you're ready to stop performing your life and start participating in it, you're in the right place. This is Human School, where we finally learn what matters most. Some stories stay with you for years, not because of what someone went through, but because of who they became through it. Drake Wright's story is one of those for me. In 2019, during a show, Drake collapsed on stage and was later diagnosed with a rare condition that affected the blood vessels in his brain. What could have been the end of his story became the start of a much deeper one. I've had the privilege of watching him navigate that season with faith, grit, and grace. He's built a life around encouraging others, using his voice and his platform to bring hope where it's needed most. Through efforts like his Benefit for the Brain, a concert he created to support brain and mental health causes. Drake is an artist, a storyteller, and one of the most resilient humans I've ever known. Please welcome my friend, Drake White.
What's up?
Welcome, brother.
Man, I'm glad to be here. How's it going?
Man, it's going good, and honestly, you and I sit in some circles sometimes, but we don't get much time to do this.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it for a while because we share so many overlapping passions, just kind of getting some one-on-one. I guess the last time we really got to sit was pre your Benefit last year, and we got to sit and talk a little bit one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I hate we had to do it for a podcast, but I'll take it, whatever time we can get.
I'll take it, man. It's always good to share proximity with you and just being in your circle is an honor, and I enjoy it. So I'll take it.
You've been on the run, it sounds like. I came in and you were doubling up on some coffee back there getting ready. Said you've been on the tour.
Yeah, we've been doing it. I feel like I'm a nomadic spirit. I love being on the road. I love the whine of the tires. I love the smells of it. I love meeting people. I love pilot coffee, and Flying J. It's just what I love to do, and so I feel like I'm sinking back in and kind of, me and my manager talked yesterday about, we have dug out of a hole, and I found out rock bottom had a basement, pretty substantially, and digging out of that hole, sometimes you realize that the hole's a good spot to be in to build a foundation, and we've just been doing that, but I'm not a patient person, and it's taken 5 years, taken forever. And so I'm sitting here like, tools for humanity. Like, I'll take some more tools. I'll take a track hoe and, get my ass out of here. So like, it's been good, and it's been a learning process, and I'm just thankful to be sitting here, honestly.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about being your buddy is you kind of talk, I get to be around a lot of great storytellers, and you're also one of my favorite vocalists. I don't know that I've told you how much of a fan I am of just your art and what you put out in the world. But what I really appreciate is people who actually speak in parables and just almost talking sound bites. You're one of those guys for me, because I haven't even, you'd think I'd heard most frames as it relates to stuff I spend a lot of time with in my lane, but that's the first time I've heard the basement to the bottom.
Yeah.
Tell me about the basement.
Rock bottom has a basement. I grew up, went to Auburn and got a building science degree. So like I love building things, and we share that same kind of flannel firewood love of life. Like me and you, I love fall. I know you love fall. One of my favorite times with you is when I got to come to your farm and just walk it with you. And there was nobody asking you how, we didn't have to be anywhere. We just kind of got to know each other, and we realized that we were very birds of a feather type of dudes. And just being in the outdoors and being in that space is just where I want to be. What was the question?
I was asking you about the basement. You started out by saying we found out that the bottom can have a basement, and
right.
I said, tell me about that basement.
But exactly the compliment that you just gave me, the danger is what I just did. And I bounce around, and I've learned authenticity beats all of it. Just flow with what's in your brain. So the basement being like, I kind of got through my 20s without having a really a tough time. I was like, man, I was the captain of the football team, won a state championship. Man,
What
I
position?
I played kind of a rover back where like, man, I just went to the strong side and messed stuff up, like make the tackle.
Like Scattaboo?
Yeah. Like
Just ran through people?
I have a very scattaboo mentality. And like
I
am the pissed off little kid on the playground. Like it's just it's my mentality. So, rock bottom, when I hit it hard, my head bounced off of it. And it was like, whoa, I may not get to do this. And all the stuff everybody's talking, one of my favorite things about being married 10 years is the covenant. I love the word covenant. I'm obsessed with words but just the commitment that people have to resilience and saying I'm resilient or I'm tough. Well, what makes you tough? Well, stories, hardship, valleys. So now I have a son, and I know you have some sons, and being able to tell him when he gets broke up with, when he fails that test, when he gets cut from the team, or when he has a car wreck, like being able to be equipped with that because I know what rock bottom was. And where I was going with the Auburn thing was like, I know how to build a building, and I know where a firm foundation stands, and that's in the rock. So whether that could be, the parable can be Christ, from a mental standpoint and a heart standpoint, the best buildings are built on the rock. The best foundations are on rock bottom. So rock bottom has a basement was like, you think it can't get worse. Well, if you read history, it can always get worse. If you go into a lot of history is just horrible. And I think that there's a lot of people that are resulting to the negative now because the negative sells and the negative things sell. But my story is rock bottom does have a basement, and it sucks. But if you stand in there and you honor those commitments and you honor those covenants and you just keep saying tomorrow's going to be better than today, that it can get better, and it will get better. And then I second guess myself all the time because I think people are rolling their eyes going, here comes sunshine and rainbow Jesus. Here comes Drake with the positive. Like, dude, if I can remain positive through what I've been through, anybody can. Because I've been paralyzed at 35 and then, watching my wife be basically paralyzed from the breast down and then going through infertility and going through, losing a kid and going through all that stuff and still sitting here saying tomorrow's going to be better than today, that comes with an authority. And I've quit apologizing or trying to walk on Easter eggs or whatever. Like, it's a good life. You just got to make it, and you got to toughen up.
If you've been listening to this podcast, then you probably already have picked up that doing inner work to try to optimize your lives in relationship is not something that you can just think your way into. It's something that takes a minute to pause and to take a look under the hood with people that you really trust and care about. And I am so fortunate. You've probably heard us mention Onsite a time or two, and that's my baby. I get to work with the best team in the world that offers these immersive experiences, therapeutic coaching, counseling opportunities for people to come in for a few days and take a look at what matters most and how do we reprioritize our relationships and get our feet on the ground emotionally and spiritually. If you'd like to check out any of our services, we have a beautiful campus just outside Nashville in Tennessee and another one in Southern California just outside San Diego. We also offer some things online. We have a longer program called Milestones that serves people that have experienced a lot of stressful or traumatic circumstances in their lives. But if we can support you in any way, I would encourage you to check out experienceonsite.com. And you can call us at 1-800-341-7432. And look, our services don't have to be the services you engage with. It doesn't cost anything to make a phone call. As a matter of fact, we train our folks to be able to help triage and refer people to the right resource wherever you may be. We're just in this to try to help people collect dots, connect dots, optimize their lives in relationship, and truly live into who you can become. I want to camp out on the concept of resilience a little bit, but there's a little bit of your backstory. I want to make sure that those that are listening get that might not know it. It's a captivating story, and we could spend our entire time on it. but I'd love to get a thumbnail of it, just some of what you're talking about from that moment on stage at 35 and kind of what happened from there. And I guess I would ask, even backing up before that, it sounded like you had started out and you said, I was football captain and we won a state championship. It sounded like you'd had a pretty good life through your early years.
Huge, yeah.
Did you experience any significant adversity that you can point back to that maybe sparked resilience to be able to help you at 35 overcome what happened on stage? Or was it really at 35s when adversity really just entered my life like an arrow?
Interesting. I think that team sports is a good way to learn that at a young age. You know, even though it's not life or death, to learn that it's not all about you, and that it's the role is more important than the I. Was a big deal. But I think, me choosing to pursue my wife. My wife, I laughed because I was in my wife's first wedding.
No way.
Yeah. Her husband was her first husband was a really good football player at our arch rival. And so after high school, we became good friends because we were both alpha males and just, drank beer in the same beer drinking circles. And so I was in her first wedding, and a lot of people say, how'd y'all meet? I say, well, I was in her first wedding. But, that for me was everybody kind of liked me, and I thrived on people having a good time, showing them a good time. Let's pull up the horse trailer and have a show. And I decided to pursue Alex, after they were divorced, and there was no wrongdoing on my part, as far as legally, but from the bro code or whatever you want to call it. And it gave him an opportunity to right all of his wrongs and be like, you know what, you SOB, you think you can come in here and move to Nashville, get a record deal, and wear those $800 boots and come in here and do whatever you want. And a lot of people, like 20 people, our friends kind of, they went the other way. They went with him. So I lost a lot of friends. They've slowly came back, but lost a lot of friends. So that was adverse for me. That was one of the toughest times that I've been through. Lost my grandfather when I was 16. It was a pretty tough time. I've been really close to some dogs, lost them. But as far as I did have the thought of my favorites are, Aretha Franklin and, Johnny Cash and, these Chris Christopherson, and listening to Billy Joe Schaefer and Guy Clark and all these guys, just bleeding with their words. I want that. Well, you can't really have that unless you have adversity. And so I had this thought in my 20s of man, I'm in Nashville, Mr. HBHS, all-state, football player, feeling pretty good, I'm about to get a record deal. What? I got it. I got it whooped. I'm going to have a great life. And my thought was, I haven't really been through anything that I was I don't think I can get through this, and then, so it happened at 34, 35, and the music industry beat me up some. I'd had a couple of drop record deals. That was when somebody says they don't want you, that's tough. But for the most part, had lived a pretty dang good life, fun life, and had the kind of tiger by the tail, as they say. It was a good life. It was a good thing, and so this was definitely my first whoa.
So you had some loss and some rejection. Clearly, if you sign up for the music industry, rejection kind of comes with the territory. So you had some of that, but it was that day. Any idea leading up to that day or that night on stage that might have been coming, or was it just?
I'd been diagnosed with what's called an AVM, and that's an arteriovenous malformation. And it's a wad of veins and arteries about the size of a lime that formed in the right side of my brain, about right here. And that's the mobile cortex of your left side. So it's responsible for operating your left side. And, I got diagnosed with that because I was I'm going to get in really good shape. And the only reason I felt it is because I got a headache because I was preparing to go on tour with Zach Brown, and then we were going to go to Australia. And the fact that I was a singer, as intense as I was, and veins popping, Eddie Vedder, Chris Ledoux level energy. Like that's what wore the bumpers out on that thing, to speak in, wood cutting country boy wisdom. Like that's what wore it out and gave me that headache. Most people end up in a ditch. So that was a blessing in disguise in itself. End up in an MRI machine. They tell me I have a mass the size of a lime in my brain. And we didn't know what it was for weeks. And they said, well, it's an AVM. And we're going to embolize this sucker. It's going to take 8 embolizations, which an embolization requires you to throw a catheter up your femoral artery into the back of your brain and squeeze it full of glue. And we can do it on Mondays, and you can be out on the road possibly on Thursdays if you rest, and just take it easy. Cool. We go through, tenderly, cautiously, but we go through, that was January of 19. We go through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and we hit July the 4th, and I'm feeling good because I'm not drinking anything. I'm not doing the things I used to do. I'm taking care of myself. I'm not even drinking Diet Coke. I'm in. And so I feel really good. And just to answer your question, no, I took the stage in Roanoke, Virginia, August the 16th of 2019. What is that, the 8th month of the year? And I got it whipped. I'm like, man, I'm 4 embolizations in, and this thing's halfway gone, and the chance of it rupturing was 2% when it was full.
Wow.
So now it was 1% in my mind. And I got out there and started singing like, Chris Ledoux and Eddie Vedder, and heard a shotgun go off in my head.
How far into the set were you?
3 songs. Singing a song called "The Coast Is Clear," and it was a very trippy experience. I've seen movies and heard people explain what a stroke's like, but it's a very psychedelic experience where the ground, everything flipped upside down. The sky became, green, and the grass became blue, type of thing.
Like literally.
Literally.
But the first thing you heard was an audible sound, like a shotgun sound?
It was like a snap or a like, It was like, and everything just kind of fuzzed out. And for a minute, I was extremely like in awe. I was like, whoa, the 1%. Because I knew.
You knew, you registered it.
Oh yeah. We had the pamphlet in the backpack. It was like, Alex, my type A personality wife, was like, all the medical stuff was in the backpack. Tour manager gave it to the EMT. EMT goes, oh, boom, I'm at a trauma 1 level unit in Roanoke. That was a miracle in itself that we were that close to a trauma 1 level unit. So we get there, and so within 15 minutes of it starting to bleed, that's what happened when it ruptured. That AVM started bleeding, and healthy brain tissue doesn't like blood hitting it.
Did you collapse on stage?
It was more of like you can see the resilience and the toughness of that football player mentality, of that wrestler, of that hunter, of that gatherer, mentality. When I was watching it back and watching the live footage, and it's in the documentary that we talked about, but you can see me trying to tough it out. Like, and in my head, I'm like, like it's, it's just like somebody hit me in the side of the face, and I'm like, I'm trying to shake it off. You can see me kind of try to shake it off, and I go to, say the next line, and it's just like, and everything goes, and I just kind of turn around, and my team caught me, drug me off stage. I'm in the hospital within 20 minutes.
Wow, that's 15. That is a miracle.
Absolutely. It was right around the corner, and they had the pamphlet. The pamphlet said, give him this. It's an AVM. The coagulant to stop the brain bleed worked. They didn't have to do any ports, any kind of open brain surgery, and it stopped bleeding, but not before it paralyzed my left side completely. Like it completely, like this hand's still numb, but yeah. So I'm sitting there paralyzed in the hospital, at this point.
Wow. What was going through your mind? Paralysis. I don't even know how you can describe that, but what?
At this moment, 30 minutes after the stroke happened, what was going through my head is just breathe. And a long time ago, somebody told me when you breathe that you're literally speaking the name of the Lord, Yahweh. You're literally breathing in and out Yahweh. So I just remember going, Yahweh, and just doing that over and over and thinking, like, as long as I'm breathing, I'm alive. But I'll tell you this, and this was surprising to me. I was not afraid at all. There was no fear of death. I knew that I might die, but there was no fear of any of it. Something took over in me, and I think it was the power of prayer, the power of my wife hearing the news and coming back from Nashville, 7 hours from Nashville to here. She just zipped it and drove fast here to Roanoke. But she was making calls, and the compounding interest of prayer, the frequency that happens when a lot of people start praying the same thing, send angels in the corners of the room, be with the doctors, be with his thing. If it is the plan, and if it has got, I could feel that. And I think that was that lack of fear. I was not afraid. I was, in a weird way, I've always been a pilfer of psychology, and I was kind of not enjoying the experience. That's not what I'm saying. I'm in my head, I was like, well, cool. I'm having a stroke. Let's go through this experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Was there any part of you that was just grateful you were alive, or?
Oh yeah. Thanks for that breath. I was thanking every Yahweh, every breath. I was thankful for that breath.
So it hadn't even really registered yet that I'm alive, but there's part of my body that's not even working.
Yeah, I thought I had a flat tire. I didn't know the engine was going down. I thought it was just I'm gonna get this thing fixed and I'll be on my way to Australia.
But you literally felt and saw it as in a weird way, it's like an opportunity. All right, I'm getting ready to walk through an experience here. I'm not sure what it is, but the way you were describing it, it's almost like you were inviting it in versus running from it or being terrified of it in real time.
Sort of, yeah. If you want to put it that way, inviting it's hard to imagine, but I was not running from it at all. I was not afraid. I was not anything. It was just we as artists, I like experiences because that is what the songs, that's what makes the songs. And I wasn't thinking about songs, well, really. It was just I was thankful to have my faith and thankful to be the next breath. And that's where I was at that moment, whether that was, I didn't know the severity of it. Yeah. I didn't know what, hey, like I said, flat tire, put a plug in it, let's go.
It's an unusual, in some ways, perspective, but the reason I'm digging into the nuance, and you're right, invite's probably not the right word because that makes it, in a sense, sounds like a frame that you want it to happen. But it is a wave that suddenly you found yourself on and had to decide, am I going to surf this psychologically? I mean, you have a choice physically because you were there. Am I going to surf this psychologically or am I not? And, because a lot of people shut down and freeze in those moments. And it was part of you that seemed like you were able to anchor into something a little deeper, whether it be faith or resilience or both.
Mm-hmm. I think the word's exploration. Maybe that's the word that just popped up in my head, I'm going to get to explore this part. You've always been optimistic. You've always been this. People always said, I bled on stage. People always said, this guy bleeds on stage, or this guy bleeds it all on stage. I truly can. Now I can flip this. That's kind of what I was thinking. I can flip this and help people. I can flip this and say, I'm willing to die on stage. I'm willing, these words, these things. I think that's what makes our shows different. That's what makes this now out of that different.
Was there any part of you that was terrified in that moment and scared about the future as well, or hadn't even gone there yet?
Hadn't even gone there yet. Not. We're talking 30 minutes after the stroke. We're not now. There was definitely this is not the rock bottom has a basement feeling yet.
Hmm.
That was when I realized I was paralyzed and couldn't squeeze my wife's hand. So this was a day or two later, because I went into this deep sleep of rest. And that in that deep sleep is where I had my interaction with God. That's where I talked to him. That's where the veil was lifted, and he kind of showed me behind the curtain of like, so what's up?
Did you feel like your faith in the relationship with God prior to that was really anchored and strong, or was did it take it to a new level, or did it open the door altogether?
All the above. It was anchored and strong. Just going through the stuff that I'd been through musically, and I think your character, like I always had pride in my character and who I was as a man, and but there were some flaws in that. I'll never talk about my own virtue. Like, I definitely was making mistakes and having a lot of fun and doing some things I necessarily wasn't proud of today, but anchored in the fact that I knew that the man that made the mountains, and I knew that I had a hedge of protection around me, and I knew how to make choices. I didn't always make the greatest choices, but most of the time I did. Most of the time I made pretty good choices. So I felt pretty anchored in that thing,
So Alex drives 7 hours. And she's by your side. And you've talked to me about this before, which she and I don't know each other super well, but we've spent a little bit of time together in proximity of you. But I feel like I know her well through you, because you talk about her in such an honoring way. But I'm amazed by how she showed up during that season too. What did you learn about your wife then, and what did it do for your marriage?
Man, I just learned that how strong she was, and like how important it was, like all the scripture about marriage and connection and things like that all came to life. And how it strengthened my marriage was just like, this is a woman that helped me use the restroom. It's a woman that duct taped her leg to my leg and said, "Hey, we don't have kids yet. We wrote down these goals before we got married, and we're going to accomplish these goals. So I'm going to drag your ass as far as I can. Like, get up." And it was not easy. It was, my back was breaking. My shoulder was so painful. This was after the stroke. But she, when I was at rock bottom, she picked me up. And then when she was tired, I picked her up. And, that is, as hard as marriage is, as hard as sharing your life with somebody is, it just taught us that. It taught us that ebb and flow of like, it's about the covenant, the commitment to each other. And man, she proved that commitment. And then I had an opportunity to prove it back to her like within 6 months, because, she had her own health struggles and paralysis. So it was a Job situation.
How far after was her condition?
Man, we went to Steamboat Springs with some buddies of ours, and it was August, September, October, maybe November, probably a little bit ambitious, but it was me. It's like, I'm going to Steamboat Springs, because I love Colorado and I like being out there and I want to see it. I want to breathe it in and keep living. And I get out there and we're walking down this trail, and I'm kind of hobbling with my cane and trying to figure it out. And she's like, "Man, I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my feet." 2 or 3 days, 2 days later, I can't. I was watching her walk, kind of spaghetti legged, and so we're talking within 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think like this was like I had the opportunity, but I was still on a cane. I was still in a bad way and needed a lot of help. And she wasn't there to help. She couldn't tie my shoes, or she couldn't fill her hands. So here we are. We have one decent hand between the two of us, which is my right hand. And what you gonna do now? That Mike Tyson quote of everybody thinks they're tough till they get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Well, got hit in the face twice. It's like, okay, all right. And you're kind of like, I got you. You read Job again. I got you. I'm good. I give. Like, please. So she's going through that, and people ask me what we did, and I'm like, 492-135. Sorry, dial up my mom and dad. Dial up her mom and dad. Hey, we need help. You call your mom. Moms came to the house, and I don't know if you've lived with your mom or your in-law for any point of time as an adult, but that produces challenges. But that's another thing that helped my relationship with my in-laws and my mom, like watching them be like, yep, we're here. What do you need? And they became, that's when you need a mother again. It's when you need help. We couldn't wipe. We couldn't use the bathroom. We couldn't make our own food. And Alex is a chef. I'm a hunter. I'm a provider. Like I'm doing this very dopamine, like I'm a high level, like Zach Brown, let's go. I mean, Fenway Park, name it. We've been there, and now we're here. Yeah.
I think about, I was touched by that moment when you were like, when your back's against the wall and you don't know what to do. And I didn't know where you were going to go with that, but you said you call your mom. And I know not everybody has that privilege if you don't have relationships that are good in that way, even through the challenge. But it just took me right to being a parent now to little ones, because ours aren't too far apart. I'm a little ahead of you, but I think there's, I don't know when I'll get those calls now all the time with at 6 and 8.
Yeah.
They just need us a lot more. But there's nothing that will shift me into focus and make me forget everything that's going on in my world, the pressure, the responsibility, and immediately jump to the top of the priority list and when my kids need me. And it's kind of neat to hear that doesn't go away.
Yeah. It is cool because I think everybody wants to feel needed. And my mom and dad, my mom is definitely a person that needs that and wants that. And so navigating that from a psychological standpoint as an adult of not really needing a mother, but not really needing to be mothered, but needing my mother, needing Alex's mother at one time, like nobody loves you like that, So there's an appreciation there. It's like, I know she'll pick up when I call.
The thread that is running through all of this, because there's a lot of nuance to this story, and we hadn't even talked about you had to relearn everything, like relearn to walk, all of it. And but there's something that kept wind behind you and Alex's sails that I want to touch on, because I think a lot of people out there can relate to their own set of adversity, whatever it may be, medical challenges in your case, which lead to all kinds of challenges mentally. And I look at somebody like you, and I don't see you as a victim of some pretty tough circumstances. I empathize and I feel for what you've been through, because I think it's like a rare percentage of the population that survive what you survived.
Sure.
But you don't wear that. You still are out living. It's not that you're not challenged. We've had really vulnerable conversations before as friends, like you said on that walk or on a call, where you kind of hit a limit, had a tough day, and we unpacked the stress that comes along with it. But you don't seem to have ever been vacant of hope. And I'm just curious about where that kind of comes from and how you kind of rode that. You and Alex both rode that to kind of start to rebuild. And I know you're still rebuilding, even as of recent, with some stuff that we may get to that you just navigated.
Well, keeping that question in mind of hope, like I will say, I'm really tired right now. Yeah. I just am. I'm tired. Like I need some smooth water. I know smooth water don't make sailors. I know all the sayings and all the things. I get it. I need some smooth water, and I need a little bit of wind behind the sails. But so hope. There's no way to say this, but we grew up going to church. We grew up learning about Jesus, learning about, just Hokes Bluff First Baptist Church. And my grandfather was a preacher. And then navigating, being a thinker, being an overthinker at some points, and really digging into questioning everything, and then learning, loving science, loving all that stuff. I really dug on my, what religion meant. Wasn't a big fan of religion, never have been. But at the root of the word, I'm obsessed with words. And I heard that Leganis is the root of that word. And Leganis means together. And re just means again. What are we doing every night at shows, What are you gathering together? Well, they just did it, and we're humans, so we screw everything up. So they did it, and of course they're going to get capitalism and power, and then they're going to try to figure out how to make, it's just humans. But at the root of it, going back to the studies of the man that walked on this earth, that is where you look up and you go, I don't have anything else. I can't walk, can't use the bathroom, I can't make spaghetti with deer meat in it. I can't hunt, I can't fish, can't provide. I still have my voice, but barely. Got my brain and can write a song, I guess, but I need you. So if you're there, I need you to show me. And my hand moved with that prayer. Rock bottom, having a basement, my hand was not moving, my left foot was not moving in the hospital, and my hand just barely did that, my left hand, And when I closed it, I said, all right. So, and I realized that some people don't get that. They don't get the hand movement. But I've just got, I'm from tough stock. My dad's always been like, hey man, if you get knocked down, get back up again. All the stuff that Alabama brings to the table, and being raised like that, water skiing, wrestling, football, all that stuff. But it, no doubt, is my belief in my backing and knowing without a shadow of doubt about my Maker, about the sacrifices that Jesus made on the cross, and him dying for our sins. And he is the way, he is the light. And I believe that. We can go into a bunch of different conversations, and I've had them because of my creative friends. But that is the hope. The hope is now it's like we all win in the end with this story. And all the stuff that's happening on the news, all the dogma and all the stuff is written, and I can prove it scientifically. And so I've dug in and been like, this is crap. Chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea, this is not crap, but you know what I mean. I've twisted it and tried to bend it, and bottom line is, all the dogma of the Western civilization, we're going to mess everything up. It's just part of what it is. But at the end of the day, there's a guy that lived it perfect, and that is my hope. That is where my faith lies, and that's where at Rock Bottom's basement, that's where I survived, and said, you know what? In the visions he gave me of a cotton-headed, little boy running around, I've still got visions of a sold-out Madison Square Garden with me, headlining. I got visions of sold-out Red Rocks. Like, and I'm a powerful dreamer to the point where when I have a nightmare, it scares the crap out of me because I'm such a powerful dreamer in the fact that, like, I know it can come true. And so that faith, man, and it is the man from Nazareth, from Bethlehem. It is the guy. It is that guy, and I've met him. I met him in that near-death experience, and it came to life, and I was not afraid. And so if I can go through that, I'm going to write songs about it, and I'm going to tell about it. I'm going to do documentaries about it, and I'm going to answer that question just like that. To Jimmy Fallon or Kelly Clarkson or wherever I go. That is it, and it may not be aired, but that is it for me. Yeah, that's it.
I want to unpack that a little bit because I think there's a lot of people that struggle with the idea of religion, and I want to hear a little bit more about that, but I want to bookmark that for just a minute and go back to a moment that I thought was very real in our conversation that just happened a couple minutes ago. And it gave me a sense of real-time compassion for my buddy or empathy for my buddy when even the questioning that I was kind of guiding us through, it points toward this brand identity that you kind of have, which is resilience and grit. And it was part of your bio that I wrote.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a compelling part of you, but sometimes it can dehumanize the guy that's just been in a shitstorm. And I think for a moment there, but I've always known you to be authentic and real in real time. I love the pause you give as you're thinking about, I want to answer this honestly and as true as I possibly can. And you had a moment there where we were talking about, I think I even said, what's that through line that continues to give you guys hope and resilience? And you just paused for a minute, looked off, and you look back and like, I'll be completely honest, man, we need some wind behind ourselves. I need some smooth water. Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge that for a minute because I think often people look at people like you guys that have overcome unthinkable circumstances and they just don't feel equipped to do it because they might be completely lost in that basement. And both can exist, I believe, at the same time. You can be exhausted and desperate for some smooth sailing and some wins, and you can engage with resilience, and those two can live together. And I wondered if you'd want to share any thoughts about that.
Now I'm conscious about the pause. I just, in this TikTokable Instagram world of like who's living the Joneses, who's going to the Bahamas, who's flying around in the jet, who's doing this, like especially me in the entertainment world, like the two have to exist together, or you don't have either one of them. Like if you're just being fake and saying, yeah, glass is half full, man, I feel fine, then you jump off a bridge one day, like we all got friends that have done that, like, yeah. And I just feel so compassionate now about the guy on the corner of the street. And I told you, I think you told me this years ago. You said, if you knew the whole story, if you know people's whole story, you'd probably love them. And I think that's the way it went. And my story now, the whole story, I think will lead a lot of people to the same thing. With that cross that I bear, I know there's a lot of church hurt. I mean, I grew up in a small Alabama town, one of the most, I'm not saying, Alabama is ridden with oppression and prejudice and, all that stuff from its history. But you take it out, we're all humans. We get to go to 100, 125, 130 cities a year. And I watch these humans try to be human and try to just get through life. And I watch cancer, and I watch Parkinson's, and I watch children that, miscarriages, and I watch jail, and I watch drug addictions, and you watch all this stuff happen, and it's okay. It's okay. Like, dadgum, like, yes, I'm an optimistic person. Yes, I have hope through my beliefs and my faith. Can I go out of here and somebody pull out in front of me and me want to jump out and beat the shit out of them? Absolutely. I'm very capable of that. But you can't have one without the other. The gratitude is where it's at. And the ability to have a good day in the middle of bad situations is a superpower. And I've just, I haven't perfected that, Miles. But dang, I'm pretty good at it. Like, there's really something about, the whole 2.5-year-old and a golden retriever and they put a lot of stuff in perspective of like, oh, well, doesn't really matter. Hunting for me, the hunt was the healing in a lot of my situations, like watching animals feed and do and not even know you're there. Like, there's a whole world existing in the woods that we don't even know about because we're worried about getting a song up the charts, or we're pissed off because my brother's sister's cousin didn't listen to my documentary song in the first place, or somebody's trying to charge me money, or somebody trying to steal this. Like, everybody's due a bad day. Like, but I can always go back, and I always try to start my day with, man, you still look pretty decent in some Wranglers. Man, I just took 4 steps over there to that toilet and was able to piss in it. Like, that's pretty good. What's next? Like, I don't think I'm making sense other than, like, you can't have one without the other. Like, you're going to have bad and good, but man, the good is always right there beside it. It's the choice, and going back to the stroke of what could be interesting coming out of this diversity in this tumultuous day. I took a right today out of my driveway. I normally don't take a right. I normally take a left. And for some reason, I said I was going to say this to you. Something pulled me to the right, and it's a scenic. That's the scenic route, but it doesn't take any longer. It's just more scenic. In the way that the leaves are doing, and I just took a right because maybe I'll see something cool. I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but
it's a good rabbit hole. Stay with it if you're okay with it.
That pull to the right this morning, I've learned to listen to that. You have to listen to that. And that, no matter what you want to call Buddha, Hindu, no matter what you want to call your God, that is God. Hey, go right. Go right, man. So I go right, and there's nothing profound that happened to the right, but I don't know, because I'm not sovereign. I don't have 40,000 foot view. I don't know if it stopped me on stopped me from having a wreck on Bradley Parkway. Mm-hmm. But that's the hope. That's the faith that I have, that feeling to go, I think I'll go this way today. Mm. I'd hardly ever go right. But that's the way I'm living my life. And that's the way I write my music. That's the way I pursue turkeys and deer and trout and bass. That's the way I pursue my marriage. I probably shouldn't walk out that door. I walk back to Alex. Hey, what's going on? Like, I know we're pissed off right now, but I'm about to leave. Could we just stop for 5 seconds and just make not complete amends, just let's make a half amends. Then when I get back home, but I can't go out the door. I've done that because he's pulled me back in. Or you probably shouldn't go on that trip. Or you probably, my thing is hunting. Like I'll go off and be like, here comes the weather. I know he's going to be on that camera. I know he's going. Might need to hang in here and watch Blippi with whatever it is.
I've been in the Blippi season.
Oh, yeah, God bless Blippi. But it's like that's pretty easy for me, man. That's the outdoorsman. That's the father's son, and my dad's. I know I'm amped up. I know my personality is like, golly, let's crack the whip, let's get it done. But man, that decision this morning to turn right, like I do have that. But sometimes I've been guilty of ignoring it, and I don't much anymore. And I've always got this vision of me cross-legged smoking a pipe on with an awesome pair of old boots on, and like the pipe smoke coming up, and I'm whittling maybe some cedar or something. I've got a dog that's fetched every duck in Mississippi and Arkansas, and I'm just sitting there cross-legged on the porch, and I can pick every Tony Rice song, and I can do, and my son's married with a beautiful bride, and I've got grandkids, and like I'm just sitting there. That guy, I hope that he, in my ideal self, he always listens to the voice that says turn right, the tug. But I don't know. I'm trying today.
That's a vision worth chasing, brother. That's beautiful the way you shared that. And I think you're describing what a lot of people might refer to as instinct or intuition, or in our case, faith, or some people might even put it in the psychology circles as self-awareness, which we often say is a significant superpower. It's just basically when you can zoom out and pay attention. And when you pay attention, often you're going to hear some instinct, some intuition that drives you one way or the other. And one of my favorite things to see when faith is a cornerstone to people's journey, and faith may be activating, I don't know, for some people, but just whatever spirituality is for you, that it can be a compass and an anchor to your growth, your healing, your relationships, the way you live, love, lead, and do life. But often, I don't know that people get an opportunity to really embody it other than just think about it, because sometimes it can be distant enough that we don't feel it. And the way you describe it is you can articulate it, and I know you were talking about a rabbit hole, but I can feel it on you. Like I can feel it. It vibrates off of you. And it makes sense why, in some ways, I don't want to answer that. I want to ask that. What is it about religion that you said you had challenges with and didn't like, and how has that informed you to lean in and anchor into your faith so much, but yet be challenged by some of the way it's distributed out into the world?
Thank you for asking that question, because it's there's people in this room probably that have trouble with it. I know there is, because I've had. That is the wrestle. I think maturity is a big thing, and when you dig into it and you go through these things and you see the sovereignty and the grace pop up, and you see the power of prayer, and you choose to believe this, that you choose to believe in the positive, that there is a creator, an all-knowing, all-knowing thing. And then you go back and you go to college and you go through all the sciences and you go through all the, archaeology finds and all of the, like, I'm a dork about that stuff. I will dive straight down to it. But for me, they coexist. Science and religion coexist. And all of the dogma, the Western civilization dogma, we have to understand, another rabbit hole, that in democracy, it's an experiment, brother, and the experiment produces capitalistic tendencies. Like I'm a capitalist, so you're a capitalist. I love capitalism, but we're not 30,000-foot sovereign God looking down over, like, it's not everything, but that's what this country. It's the greatest attempt of all time. But that's what humans, churches. That's what organized anything. You put a couple of dudes together, and they're like, well, we could have a little club here, and we could get Sarah Jackson to get her dad to come, whatever it is, to pull a bunch of money, and we can make a little money on this now. Like, they're going to mess it up. They're going to mess it up anytime. That is not the root of the guy that I'm talking about, the Jesus I'm talking about. That dude. It don't matter tattooed, faced up or not. It don't matter, red, yellow, black, and white. It doesn't matter in jail. It doesn't matter his disciples. The more you dig into it, the more you realize he used just complete screw ups to paralyze. Is that a word? Paralyze? That's cool. To paralyze his way through the navigational beacons of like, there's answers there. You just have to be willing to dig and get off the couch long enough to say, to dig in. And I've been through this these tumultuous things, and they've given me this clarity. But then some days are muddy, some days are pretty clear, some days are brackish, some days are, it's just like, there's never any, I don't feel like, I feel 18 still. I feel like I'm learning and exploring, and then you go right with a Tom Douglas, or you go right with somebody like that, and you're like, dang, man, he's way smarter than I am. Or sit down with you and like, man, he's got it way more figured out. You don't. And you realize they're your friends, and where, my buddy Riley Green may have this figured out over here. My buddy, I'm name dropping a little bit, but like Willie Nelson may have this figured out over here, but like we're uniquely in this Rubik's Cube of cosmic, like world flying through whatever you believe, I'm just trying to figure it out. Now I'm going off the deep end and getting a little out there, but it's like, I don't even remember what your question was, bro, but,
No, we were talking about spirituality and faith, and I think there's a lot of people that don't put feet on their faith and try to go find out certain answers for themselves. And you and I've had similar journeys with challenges with indoctrination and organized religion and dogma, and yet we both have received significant gifts from it. Yeah. And you and I've had some great great conversations about that. But there's an essence that is palpable with people that embody spirituality, that embody faith, that talk about nature the way that you do. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the reasons I try to be in the woods and the water and be under the sky and with the trees as much as I possibly can. And I'm an outdoorsman. I love to hunt and I love to fish, but it's not really about the pursuit. I don't have ego about the pursuit. Mm-hmm. I like the pursuit. Yeah. But it's being with something that feels contextually bigger than any of us. And it gives me a sense of peace and belonging. I feel a part of it when I'm out there. And I hadn't always had that. That's just come in the last few years. It feels like a seasoning and a maturation period with how I'm becoming more integrated. Because even when I got into psychology, I used to separate, spirituality and secular psychology and study of human behavior versus the study of this mystical, beliefs. And I thought, man, if you're really thinking about tools for change and helping people usher in meaning and value into their stories, these two are the same. Our spiritual health and our emotional health should be in the same conversation. And I'm curious, tell me about hunting, because I'm super excited to see this new documentary that's going to be coming out soon. But tell me about what you said. I healed in a deer stand in a lot of ways, but what has that done for you?
I've got this question that keeps popping up in my head, and I really want to get into this answer, but I want. Let me see if I need to ask it first. How I need to ask it. Do you believe this came up I think having a whiskey the other night. Like, do you believe somebody can truly heal? Can truly heal without, I don't want to say religion, I don't want to say Jesus. Can you truly, completely heal without going deeper than yourself? What do you think about that question? Like,
it's a really good question, and it's a complicated one to answer. There is some research and data that I'd like to circle back on that I may actually add to this episode, because I've read some of the studies before where people tried to research some of this, but I'm not as familiar with it because it's been a decade, so I don't want to spout it and misquote it. So I'll just tell you instinct, kind of my personal instinct of having sat side by side with thousands of people. There is a reason why most support circles that are built for people to grow, change, and heal and to share their stories, and whether it be not the anonymous circles or the spiritual circles, where there's a step in the process that is predictable, and it's usually up front somewhere where you're invited to believe and to get in touch with and to have a conversation with a power greater than yourself. Do I find it essential? Because I've also walked with atheists and agnostics as they've gone through physical and emotional and psychological challenges and trying to find their way back. So I guess the question is, or the answer might be, can you heal a physical or emotional or psychological element of your story without faith in some type of faith intact or a belief in something greater than yourself, I would have to say I've seen people heal at a certain level, but healing to me is never about alienating or diffusing a symptom. It's bigger than that. It's not, I think we look at that in Western medicine. It's symptom management primarily instead of the root cause. Like what got us here to begin with? That's one of the reasons I have been so driven. And it used to be, 15 years ago when people were talking about psychological and emotional trauma in the mental health space, when a few of us started to usher that in and said, maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe we shouldn't be so hyper-focused on why people are using substances or dealing with depression and anxiety. All that stuff's important. But what's underneath that? And if we can't really get to that, can we really give people a life back? Because I can tell you, I've worked with thousands of people that arrested the symptoms, but didn't have a lot of life to show for it. Mm-hmm. But I think if you can put that ingredient into the mix, this spiritual belief, this hope, this faith, whatever that might be for you, I think then you get to live the experience of healing, hope, and overcoming adversity. And I think when you embody it, I believe it takes it to another level, because I've seen a lot of people that have gotten better from conditions, but they still feel locked and trapped in their mind. Mm-hmm. And I find it personally, and having witnessed a lot of people, to be a pretty essential ingredient for people to find hope, healing, and wholeness in a healing journey. Mm. I don't know if that answered it or not, but that's me without putting a lot of science behind it.
Yeah, we're just talking, It's a conversation, but I appreciate you. It's not an easy answer. It's just I'm not sure. There's always a deeper root. There's always and at the base, at that foundation, we've talked a lot about foundation. At that foundation, there is, why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? So that's very interesting. But the question that you asked before, that's a very important one to me. So I want to dig into that a little bit. I don't know how much time we got, but
how are we doing on time? You guys have a heart out?
We're good.
Okay, cool. We're doing okay. You got the energy to keep rolling?
Yeah, okay. Bro. I'm about to get up and stretch.
My man.
So after I had the stroke, I got to come home, and I'm not a good patient. I have no patience, and I don't ever pray for patience, by the way. I'm not a good patient. I'm like, I gotta get out of here, And I was in the hospital 40 days and 40 nights, and I don't think anything happens on accident. And we got to the house. Alex's brother is he's a good storyteller. He's a jokester. He's my age, around my age, a little older. And he always tries to mess with me all the time. And I'm like, you can't mess with me. I sleep with your sister. That's the ultimate trump card.
Shut it down right out of the gate.
And he's literally like, you're kind of right. So I'm like, why do you even try? So he's just like, hey, man, I'm going to go down here and put a trail camera up. And I feel like I have a booger in my I'm sorry, I know we're on camera. But
No. I don't see anything. But we got any tissue?
Perfect.
Grab a box of tissue.
There's might be a hair.
Just wait, man. You get a little older and the nose hairs just keep on growing.
No, it's good. He's at the house. They come to the house, and we're talking about what we talk about. And he's like, man, I've always had there's 4 different ridges that come into my ridge, a very, very clear, nutrient-rich creek. There's a lot of Indian artifacts, which is a very good sign that there's great wildlife, and everything grows great from tomatoes, around the banks of that creek and from the water of that creek. So I just have a lot of wildlife on my property, and I take a lot of time with native grasses and in preparation to give them places to feel secure and bedded, whether it be the wild turkey or a deer or whatever. So he comes in and goes, I'm in a wheelchair, you know, and we're talking a month, maybe 2 months after the stroke, and maybe 3. And I'm in a wheelchair, and he said, let's put a game camera up behind your house. Well, I'd already went through, I was pretty angry at this point. And I learned a new word the other day. To my chagrin, he put the game camera up. And I'll tell y'all what that means. I didn't want him to do it. I was like, I can't hunt this deer. I can't climb a ladder. I can't effectively, I would feel bad. How am I going to, ethically harvest him? I can't hunt a deer. Puts the game camera up anyway. I look at it 100 times a day. I'm in a wheelchair, looking at it, this, beautiful backyard we've got. People are doing stuff for me. They're cutting grass and they're planting trees for me. All the stuff that I do. I take a lot of pride in King of the Weed Eater type stuff. I can do it. And I'm just a whole of a man, Miles. I'm dude, what? And I'm not really moving good yet. Everything, I weigh 190 pounds right now. I weighed 140 then.
Wow.
So I was extremely just a shell of a dude, of what I was. And I'm not kidding you. 2 weeks goes by and a 175-inch deer pops up behind that house. And being a hunter, that is very Kentucky, Illinois, common, not really. It's not common anywhere.
Kansas, high fence, Texas. You just don't see them. It's not a Tennessee deer.
It's Bambi's dad to the people out there. It's massive, big trophy deer.
175 is a point system that we use to score the antlers, and it helps you age deer, score deer, all that stuff. Just so it's all part of the ethical kind of thing that we all do. But that's, wow, 175-inch deer on camera in Tennessee is wild.
Massive. And he pops up on the trail camera, and I'm like, I've got some, he's a jokester. So I'm like, is he messing with me? So I debunk all of the systems that might, because we're dudes. He will do that. He would be that sick to me because I've hammered him before. Debunk all of that. There's this deer behind the house. All right. I go to I'm in a wheelchair, can't walk, can't anything. I go to my trainer, who's a Mississippi guy named Griffin Moore, and I said, I got to learn how to climb a ladder stand. He said, brother, you got to walk across this damn floor before you do anything. And he goes, get on that Versa climber. And 2 months later, they had that velvet hunt. The velvet hunt, I didn't even know about the velvet hunt in August.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about basically a year after that's the time period we're talking about. So I saw that deer, say June, and I'm like, August 28th, 29th, whatever day that was, I'm gonna climb a stand. I don't care if I have to engineer, go back to my thing and figure out some kind of hoist to get me, or ground blind. Ground blind didn't work because of the way the wind swirled down there, and I couldn't get to him. But here's the fact. My brain was kicking on something beside I'm a poor piece of crap in a wheelchair that can't wipe his own butt. Now I'm hunting, and I'm thinking, what is this deer doing? And I love a whiteboard. My manager hates me because I love a whiteboard. I'm whiteboarding. I said, what are you doing? I'm like,
I've seen you whiteboard before.
I'm going to kill this deer. And something clicked in my head, man. A primal thing. We are hunters. Some people are, the Peters from a biblical standpoint, the type A, the driven Peters of the world, the leaders, the hunters, the providers. It just clicked, dude. And I was like, and guess what time it is? It's 2020. It's pandemic, middle of the pandemic. So I'm kind of back on a wheelchair, and I'm going to do the best I can I'm trying to play shows, and they're like, nobody's playing shows, nobody's writing. So I'm writing on Zoom, and I've got the rest of the day, and I've got this giant back here. So I get on that VersaClimber, and 2 months later, Alex goes to the base the morning of like August the 28th. It's so hot, and I roll down there with my walker, and she's like at the base of the tree, and I climb up this tree, and I sit down, and I had a doctor's appointment during this thing that I canceled, of course. But it was with the brain, is like very renowned neurologist named Dr. Miracle, who's became my best friend, one of my best friends, my best friend.
He's awesome. I met him, I believe.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He's going to be here. He's going to be there this
Great.
year too. And we get up in that tree, and I hunt that deer, but I cancel that. So I met my goal was just to get up in the tree and hunt. So I don't care if you're upright bow, 30-06. I mean, it was an archery thing. Can't really pull a bow with a decimated shoulder. So I do the thing with the crossbow, and I like, it made me think about that too. Like, it doesn't matter. I was a hunter, and I was up in that tree stand. I canceled that, but I went back 2 weeks to the neurologist, 2 or 3 weeks later. So I'd been prepping since June, August. It was now September. I walk in, man. I got my belt cinched up tight, my shirt's buttoned, and Dr. Miracle's like, bro, you look great. What have you been doing? Like, cause he had seen the whole of a man come in. Like, oh, I'm okay. Nah, I've got to get through with this so I can get back to, we've only got September, deer season starts. So here coming up, I got to get ready. He goes, and he's looking at charts and stuff like that. And I don't think there's any way you can like tell about neuroplasticity and the growth of our brain forms new neural passageways, and it's so resilient. It will literally form it around the lesions and around the things that we need. And you can learn new movements and new things. That's what we're doing, when we learn something, how to play a new song or do whatever. And he's like looking at me, and he's looking at his charts, and he's like, what have you been doing, man? You're like a completely different human being. And I was like, I don't know, man. In my head, I was like, I just need to get out of here. And Alex goes, I tell you what he's been doing. She sat beside me because she wouldn't let me go to these doctor's appointments by myself, because I always told her I was okay. And she goes, he's been hunting every day. And I had wrote a song called The Hurt's the Healing that pulled me out of the gallows and proved that I could write a song still right after the stroke. And I said, well, maybe the hunt is the healing. And so we documented it all and put together this documentary about the whole journey, coming through the music and coming through the stroke, and people say, why would you use a hunting and basically segregate the people that the tree huggers from California, they're going to go, I'm not going to watch a hunting documentary. Well, I'm telling them, like, it's not really a hunting documentary. It's a permission back to the primal of, like, this was my primal, this is who I am genetically. I am a provider, so I was going to kill for my tribe, and and it gave me, and I never harvested that deer, but I could climb a ladder. I could walk down the hill, traverse the hill back up, and I killed a couple of does. I could skin that deer one-handed. I could pull it, and I found out ways with a golf ball and my winch to skin the deer, by myself. I became efficient and self-sufficient, which is a pretty good mark of manhood, I started burning fires again. I started and it was just because I saw that deer. I never... Did God put that deer behind my house and it was an angel deer? Was it even real? Doesn't matter. That was where the faith, that we'll get back to the faith. Like, I've got faith. I only saw the deer twice after the trail camera picture, and nobody ever killed him or I would have seen it. So I I made the hunts the healing, and we went out, and it's that story of how that trail camera picture and how just having a purpose helped me get out of the rock bottom, the basement of rock bottom, and get out of the suicide. I never had suicide. Like, I never thought about suicide. I just understood it. And that was enough to scare the piss out of me. Like, and that got me out of that. No, I can do this. I can get back to stage. I can play guitar again. I just got to figure it out. So the avocation became meeting my buddy Ed Clay that you know now, through the benefit for the brain stuff, and then making it about my future son, making it about, you know, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, make it about creative vets, make your trauma a testimony for somebody else. That is fulfilling. And I've figured that out. And dude, I may have a bad day tomorrow, but like today's a good day. This is a good conversation. Make your trauma a testimony for somebody to go not jump off the bridge, not pull the gun out of your mouth. I know that's visual, but like, so is suicide.
Yeah.
You know, and that's we're humans and we're messed up and we're all we got. And so now I have empathy for more empathy than I did. I'm still a knucklehead sometimes about, you know, all this stuff. But
where can people see the documentary?
It'll be coming out. I don't know when this is coming out, but it'll be available on Real Trees. It's going to be on Real Tree in collaboration with Real Tree and myself, coming out October the 12th. On YouTube.
Okay.
And then after it does a stint there, it's gonna be available around after Thanksgiving, like November the 28th. It's gonna be available at the Outdoor Channel. Got some good connections there.
Cool.
And I still love the Outdoor Channel. Like
I do too.
I still have it on, and so it's like now it's awakening things of like, I think it'll be episodic in its nature, in the fact that now I'm excited about bringing people that are really on death's door or are on thinking about suicide, or like bringing them to the woods. The woods, man, back to the conversation of taking a right. Like, you talk about something that completely gets me out of the simulation of people trying to sell something to me. That deer's not trying to sell anything to you. That turkey is just trying to stay alive, and so is the deer. And you prepping their property to be conducive for their health is improving the grounds around you. The bees, Alex has got bees now, and watching that kind of stuff is why I love hunting. Being in a tree stand with my phone off and nobody knowing where I'm at. Alex knows that, like, I need that solitude. I used to love duck hunting because the camaraderie. Still love duck hunting. Yeah. But I liked it more than anything than any other hunting.
It's communal.
Because I'm so communal in every aspect of my life with what I do professionally, now I love deer hunting because it is
solitary. Yeah, solitary. Whatever. Yeah, but time with yourself.
It's just you sitting there, and I like to pay attention to the wind direction. I know which way is north. And Ladder to the Sky was born because you have the opportunity to keep climbing the ladder to the sky. That's the name of the documentary. Or there's this concept of the black abyss. We go to the black abyss in our minds mentally of like, I can't. Because I had to think about the frost on the rung of the ladder as my left foot hit it. And the paralyzing fear of slipping and going back to where I was. The worst thing a man can ever go through is having his wife wipe his ass for him, you know. By the way, if you're ever in that position, get you a bidet. It's the best thing
That's
ever.
a pro tip right there.
I think I'm out after that.
Speaking of tools for humanity.
Yeah. Perfect outdoor. But no, the outdoors, man, I see God there. I see him in the trees. I hear my melodies, and is Song of David, as this may sound like, I hear in the whistles and the whippoorwill and in the sounds of all of that, I hear the songs and the ideas, and it's so fresh to me because it's not an algorithmic thing that anybody can control. It's just God. That's where I see him. It is literally the maker, and he's, it's like a Bob Ross painting, but better, but real.
It's speaking of tools, I want to extract a couple just from my observations of hear you share that testimony part of your story. And I'm also an outdoorsman. I said that in the beginning, and a hunter. And sometimes I think outdoorsmen who are really integrated in why they do what they do, why we do what we do, then we're not that different from even people who love nature but are anti-hunting. Yeah. We're all out there for a similar purpose. Now, don't get me wrong. There's people in both parties that probably are a little more extreme and may not care about where they are, and it's more about the trophy or whatever. But the majority of people you talk to that get the spiritual element and benefit,
sure,
and the mental release or relief of the pursuit and being, you have to, not only do you have to get to know nature, you have to learn to think like nature. You have to learn to think by what you're pursuing.
Speak the language. Yeah.
Speak the language. And there's plenty of data and science around putting yourself in nature and what that does for us. There's a whole field of psychology and therapy called ecotherapy that now I've got people being trained in, that is basically just taking people back to the source as a means of spiritual and emotional healing.
Shocker.
We overcomplicate it a little bit in some circles. But what I see is when we experience, and nobody's immune to adversity. Nobody's immune to stress. You're going to experience some of it. Some get a better hand than others, and sometimes a little, it's difficult not to compare sometimes, but everybody experiences adversity and stress. That can compound in our body. When it does, one of the things that we can do in our brains unconsciously is we can get stuck in a negativity loop or a blame cycle or a victim narrative. Those three kind of live hand in hand. And it's not, I used to be like, oh man, avoid that at all costs. No, it's going to come. There will be a part where I think that's just a natural part of the rhythm of trying to overcome something that feels hopeless, is you have to try that on and feel it. Because in a sense, you have been victimized. You've gone through an unthinkable circumstance that you probably didn't deserve and wished it didn't happen, but you need to be there. The challenge is in exploring that pair of clothes, you got to be careful that you don't get stuck in them. You don't get over attached to that narrative. And what I heard you describing is, I was a shell of a human. I was struggling. To find a purpose and a passion. Often it's reigniting a fire and if you've got coals that are covered up and you want to put them out of the way, you just need to find a purpose. What is a purpose? Because a purpose can break those cycles. Our brains are going to ultimately, wherever we spend the most amount of time mentally, that's how we're going to regroove our neural pathways. They're going to support where you spend most of your thinking. And to disrupt that pattern, first to identify that pattern, disrupt it, and attach it to a new purpose can disrupt those cycles and absolutely help you climb back out. And you described that perfectly with one of the great vehicles that got you out of it with hunting and being outside. But everybody out there that's going through unthinkable circumstances, you are one clear purpose away from putting one foot in front of the other and remembering who you are, which is a great human being that can grow, change, and heal. And that no matter what you're doing, resilience might just be right around the corner. You can call it resilience, you can call it faith, call it whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But if this conversation does anything for anybody, and it's what it's done for me, it's what you do for me. Mm-hmm. It's what I think God ordained you to do, is you invite purpose and hope back into people's stories.
Oh, well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that part. Well, we've been here for a while, and I want to take it easy on you because I know you've been on the run and are a little tired. I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
But as we turn the corner, I want to encourage people to get to know you, your art, your work, because I think what you bring when you're on stage delivering some of your art is not a concert. It's more of an experience because you've said over and over, I put everything I have into what I deliver. And it's fun to watch. It's beautiful to watch. And I'm really excited about, you've invited me into the Benefit for the Brain, which you didn't know when you invited me, I think, because we share a passion for mental health. And if you're going to do mental health well, you need to understand neuroscience. You need to understand the brain. And so we'd had some interesting conversations along the way about traumatic brain injuries and things. And I assumed that you invited me into it because of my profession, because we're buddies and had walked together through some of your journey. But you didn't. I remember when you made that call, I immediately said yes. And I was like, I've got a traumatic brain injury as well. I've had multiple concussions. And I got to explain a little bit about my scenario. And so I'm really passionate about what you've created and the awareness and who you're bringing around. It's an eclectic group of us that are coming around this thing. And I know we've got another one coming up soon. I would imagine this might be released somewhere right around then. But what are you excited? I just want to hear a little bit about what you're excited about that movement. What are you trying to spark and create, and what do you hope it ends up doing?
I'm excited about exactly what we've been talking today about. Like, it's okay to try that pair of clothes on. It's okay to have a bad day. I want to say I am a relentless optimist, but I have bad days. I very rarely have a bad day. I very rarely let myself have a bad day. I'll sometimes have a bad 3 or 4 hours, but I try to dig out of it. But I'm excited about almost challenging people, with the rigmarole of insurance and all the, like, I feel like I have to have the engineering degree for the insurance, to navigate the insurance companies and navigate all the stuff that I've been through for therapy, and just redirecting the thought of this is the engineer in me, there's always a solution as long as you're willing to wake up and seek it. And whether that be a bum knee, a cancer, get another opinion, get the same opinion, but know that there's so many tools on this earth, from stem cells and psychoactive therapy. Psilocybin. I want to dig into all the stuff, the ibogaines and like the stuff that's triggering people to go, whoa. I'm not into that. Like, when you can't walk, when you can't pursue yourself, when you can't pursue a good life, you start to dig. And I just want to bring a night of advocacy to say, you are worth it. There is more good people than bad. And we're all gathering in here at the Mother Church to go, me, Riley, and John are saying all at the same time, this is how one guy got through it. And maybe somebody can take a piece of that story and go, you know what? I'm not going to take these pills tonight. Or I'm not going to succumb to the abyss. I'm going to climb the ladder. I'm going to continue to climb it. And that's all. Just form a hub of people. And yeah, we're going to give some money. I get worn out. I'm going to be completely honest. I get worn out by, this is bad to say maybe, but like, we get asked to do charities every day. Of course you get worn out. Okay, well, now I got to figure out, I got to pray about it. Am I truly passionate about that? This is what I'm passionate about. The world is hard and it's messed up, but it's the one we got. And it's 2025, and this is our time on this earth. And our kids are dependent on us leaving it better than we found it. So I want people to understand that your food, your advocacy, your health journey is yours, and you can take over it. And here's some ideas that may get them out of a funk or a bad trip or whatever they're in.
I think that's important for people to hear, because so many that are dealing with either mental or physical challenges, you feel lost and hopeless up front, and you're looking for an answer or a savior in another human. We call them primary care physicians or case managers, and I'm not saying, I employ lots of people that do some of that stuff. I'm not saying they're incredibly valuable to come alongside you and help you pursue. But don't underestimate your ability to be the quarterback for your own care. Don't underestimate your ability to be curious and be open-minded and to start to explore different means of healing. Because I had to. When I ran up against multiple walls, I was like, I want to continue to put my trust in the system, and I also want to put my trust in myself and see what else is out there. And that's really what this night is all about. It's in 3 parts, I would say. It's reducing the stigma so we can talk about this stuff. It's advocating for people so they can have more curiosity and more options to explore to get better and grow, change, and heal. And primarily what I took from it last year is it was a heck of an encouraging evening. People walked away feeling hopeful. And that's what this is about. That's if we're going to put our resources and time and ask you for any resources for any reason at all, it's for those three things, because we think the world can use more of all three. Yep. And I think your story is a good testimony of that. And there's a last chapter that, it has somewhat been told. And I made a conscious choice. We didn't talk about it beforehand, that we wouldn't spend a lot of time there today because it feels fresh to me. And you and I've spent a little time. We've talked about it. And I know when you have a public profession, it's got as the nature of the beast. If you don't tell that story, then somebody's going to tell it for you. And so I was proud of you for even putting yourself out there and saying this just happened to us. We just had another significant loss that I know has just turned y'all's world upside down. And all I want to acknowledge it because it's happened. And I want to say, I want to invite everybody that has their eyes and ears on this to put some prayers and some encouragement towards you and your family, you and Alex specifically, for what y'all been navigating recently. And I know you well enough to know that, as you said, turn trauma into a testimony, turn your pain into a purpose. I know that'll come. I already know there's probably something coming there, and we'll do a part 2. We'll talk about that in a few months. But for right now, I feel like that's a sacred journey that you guys are walking through yourselves. And I hope everybody out here that didn't know you before this conversation, I hope you'll join me in putting a lot of love behind a good friend who's out there doing good things in the world and his family.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do.
Anything else you want to share with us before we wrap this baby up and land the plane?
Man, I think we've covered it all. It's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a great way to start the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.